some background on who this amazing being was before she became what she is today. In Swami Mukti's previous life, she was Gabriola Grace, born in Melbourne, Australia. She had an early calling to yoga at the age of 12. At 17, she left for India to spend 10 years at the feet of her mentor and guru, Paramhansa Swami Satyananda Saraswati, a direct disciple of Swami Shivananda of Rishikesh. Gabriola was initiated into the Saraswati order of Sannyasa renunciation, dedicating her life to the teaching and practice of all aspects of yoga. Since 1977, she is known as Swami Muktiboddhananda Saraswati. Swamiji was given the title Yogacharya, Yoga Authority, from Paramhansa Swami Niranjanandana in 1993. Swami Muktiboddhananda was inspired to distill the yogic knowledge and experiences she gained in India into 3 extraordinary books. Her first book, Swara Yoga, The Tantric Science of Brain Breathing, is suitable for anyone interested in understanding the subtleties of what it means to breathe in the right, left, and both nostrils in relation to the environment. Her second publication, Hatha Yoga Pradipika, Light on Hatha Yoga, consists of a thorough commentary on each Sanskrit verse with English translation. It is the most widely used modern English version of the original 15th century Hatha Yoga Pradipika, written by Swami Satamarama, considered as a yoga Bible of this science. Swamiji's third book, Energy, the Spark of Life and Universal Goddess, is an eminently practical guide to the sometimes mystifying and esoteric practices of yoga. We do have all of our books, all of these books that she's written and other books by Swami Satyananda on the back table if anyone's interested after the talk. I will be more than happy to assist you, and we take cash, check, or credit card. So without further ado, please help me welcome Swami Muktiboddhananda Saraswati.
So this is my 6th visit to Gabriola, through grace of Guru and Padma Yvonne, who first invited me here. And for me, I feel like I'm coming home with everyone's family. I may not know everyone here, but it's like when you've got extended family. You know? When I was a child, we used to have the Nash's reunion, and I'm an only child, and it was so nice to see all my cousins, nephews, aunts, uncles, and I knew nobody, but these people were family. And I have to say, I feel that even more so here. Something about this place and the people. Yeah. And it's something that you feel, isn't it? It's an energetic feeling. And tonight's subject is about energy. It's about connecting and understanding what that energy is. So I'm going to talk about Kundalini, and I think it's often misunderstood or not understood and even feared. Is there anyone here who doesn't know that word or that term Kundalini? Just let me know. Good, that's fine. So what I'm talking about, I hope will be easily understood, because I've been involved in this way of life and understanding for a long time. I suppose sometimes I can take it for granted that people understand. That's why I'm asking if you don't. And so hopefully I can explain that clearly. Kundalini is a brand of yoga today, Kundalini yoga. Yeah? Has anyone practiced that brand of yoga? Yeah, a few people, yeah. So then you understand what I'm saying when I explain that it is a brand of yoga which is actually a system of yoga that traditionally is slightly different to what I'm going to be talking about. The word kund means a pot, something, a receptacle that you hold. It could be a vase, for example, or a pot that you use, a saucepan that you use on the fire. So the word kund means a container. And this particular container is for energy. It is the container of energy. And this whole universe is a container of energy. Everything that we are looking at is full of energy. Energy may be inherent, for example, in this harmonium, it's made of wood. So energy is inherent in wood, and in order to extract the energy, we put it in the fire, and that releases the energy. And so yoga is that process which fires us to release the energy within. As we know in science, energy cannot be destroyed or created. And yoga operates on the same principle. We have energy within our body, we have energy within our mind. And through the process of firing this, we convert that energy. And we know this in science too, that energy can be contained and converted. And so the yoga process really, and the yoga philosophy isn't different from what we understand in modern day science. We go through a process of focusing the mind and stilling the body to contain the energy in order to convert it. So when we do a yoga posture, which is an asana, we are stilling our body. We might still our body for a few seconds. We might still it for longer when we hold the yoga pose. But for whatever period of time, we are stilling our bodies with awareness. So as an example of what I mean, just close your eyes and be aware of how you are sitting without changing your position, being aware of how your legs and feet are placed, being aware of your hands and arms, how they are placed, your torso, your neck, your head, your face. Just being aware of that experience of sitting, and being aware of breathing while you are sitting. Body breathing in, body breathing out. Body breathing in, body breathing out. Be aware of this for about 30 more seconds. You might repeat mentally, body breathing in, body breathing out. Slow breath in and out. And release your position, change it in some way necessary, open the eyes. So in this short period of time, did you find the mind was wandering? Just let me know. The mind wandered here and there. The process of firing the mind and the body is to keep the mind focused. Yeah, this is a process of firing the body and mind through stilling the body and focusing on one thing. It's not easy, is it? And when you do focus the mind and you are finding it easy, then what happens is, you know what that is? Falling asleep. So in yoga we have mudras, hand mudras, placing the hands in particular positions, and so this is the sleep mudra. In order to contain the energy within the body and convert it, we need to be able to sit, we need to be able to focus the mind and maintain awareness. So it's quite a challenge. And what we find is that after doing this for a period of time, something changes within us. And we find that we have more energy for the day. We find that the mind becomes more focused. And without these few minutes of stilling the mind and body, then the energy dissipates. Yeah? And so we look for energy in other ways, maybe eating an ice cream, or maybe having a cup of coffee, or a cup of tea, or what else do we get energy from outside of ourselves?
The ocean.
The ocean. That's a little bit different.
Social media.
Social media. Yeah. Yeah. And these types of things create a spike in energy, and then there's a drop, like having a cup of coffee. The energy, the blood sugar spikes and then it drops. Yeah? So the energy spikes and it drops. The purpose of your yoga practice is to lift the energy gradually and keep it there. So there's a plateau. And with more practice, the energy lifts, and then there's another plateau. The energy lifts, and there's another plateau. And then we need to go to sleep. But we've raised our energy to a certain level, to a certain vibration. And when we do this, we find that our perception changes. Yeah? So, you know how it feels. Say, for example, you've got the flu. The body's fighting off a virus. Your physical energy drops. Your mental energy drops, doesn't it? And sometimes we feel confusion in this state. Sometimes we simply go to sleep. This is a state in yoga that we call inertia. The energy has dropped down. When we're unwell, we need to be in that state. It's a rejuvenative state. When we go to sleep at night, we're feeling tired. The energy drops. But it's a rejuvenative state. It has a purpose, it has a reason. When the energy drops continually, day after day after day after day after day after, it's not rejuvenative. And so we need to apply some practices in our life to lift that energy. So this energy that I was talking about in this pot, the kundalini energy is within us. And through the processes of yoga, we learn how to understand it, and we learn practices to do to keep that energy rising. So in yoga we talk about different energy systems in the body, and some of you will be very familiar with those energy systems. When I talk about the energy systems in the body, I'm also talking about levels of consciousness, because energy and consciousness go hand in hand. They're not separate. I was saying before, when your energy drops and you feel tired, you can't think, can you? And sometimes we get cranky. Yeah? Sometimes we feel confused, and it's very difficult to understand the people around us and the world in which we live, because we're looking through a filter of tiredness. These energy systems in the body either flow through certain channels, or the energy congregates in specific areas, and we call these particular areas where the energy congregates wheels of energy. These wheels of energy reside along the spine in close proximity to the nerve plexi. And we talk about 7 energy centres, from the base of the spine going all the way up to the crown of the head. And each energy centre corresponds with a certain mode of thinking. So I'm going to talk about that. because it's important to understand where our needs, where our desires are coming from and what is driving us. When we look at our chakra system and consider the base chakra down at the tailbone area, at a psychological level, we are talking about the need to feel safe and secure. We are looking at the need of survival. And here living on Gabriola, when you have your big storms, you know what that means, don't you? Yeah? And so what happens here is that your base chakra is engaged. If the energy isn't flowing freely, you will be feeling more anxiety, more stress over the fact that maybe the roof's going to come down, yeah? And you don't know what to do about it. There's a big storm, a tree's fallen near your house and you think another tree's going to fall on your roof. When the energy is flowing freely, you will be able to put a plan into action. When the energy isn't flowing freely, you will feel confused, you'll feel anxious, you'll come out in a hot sweat. You won't be able to breathe properly. So in other words, what happens is the fight and flight in the nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system kicks in. Yeah? This is to do with the primitive area of the brain. So for example, if you think of my forearm as the central nervous system going into what we call the primitive brain, reptilian brain, yeah? Fight, flight, freeze, breathing, all the bodily functions, procreate. Wrapped around that, you've got your mammalian brain, then your neocortex. So this central nervous system connecting into that primitive area of the brain is connecting to your Muladhara chakra, your base chakra, your survival center. And so in terms of yoga, we do practices to harness this energy right at its source. And this is where the Kundalini energy actually starts from. What we do to harness this energy to assist us in our emotional responses is a practice called Mula Bandha, pelvic floor lock. So we pull the muscles of the pelvic floor inwards and upwards. At a physiological level, it has benefits, of course, for the body, but at a psychological level, as we practice this, it gets the energy of the Muladhara moving. And so when that energy is moving, we can think more clearly. We can come up with our own answers about how to feel safe. Maybe we ring up somebody and say, I've got this issue, what do you think I should do? They give us an answer and we think, yes, that's a good idea, and we put it in place. This is the practicality of it. But when the energy is not flowing at that centre, we can't think. Do you know those moments when you feel confused and you're not sure what to do? We have a saying, I don't know if you have this saying here, don't know if you're Arthur or Martha. You have that saying? Some people do, some people don't. I don't know if you're Arthur or Martha. Yes, don't know if you're Arthur, the name Arthur, or Martha. Yeah. So you're feeling confused. We all have moments of confusion. And so when you look at the next centre moving up, which is related to the region between the sacral spine and the pubic bone, this area is to do at an energetic level with enjoying the pleasures of life through the senses, sensual pleasure and having fun in life through sensual experiences and learning through that. And in my life, I've noticed that as we grow up into adulthood, we get really serious. Got to pay the mortgage, got to pay the bills, got to work. There's a song about that. Got to work, work, work. Haven't I heard it? Paul's nodding. Yeah. And so, when we feel the oppression of paying the bills, then life is not so much fun anymore, is it? You know that feeling. So what that does, it actually suppresses the energy at this level. And it's really important to be conscious of that. It's really important about having fun in life. And I understand that there's moments that it's not appropriate. It can be inappropriate at a funeral. And there is a story about that, though. There was a yogi who liked to make jokes all the time. So what he did was, before he died, he knew he was going to die, he put all these firecrackers in his coffin. So that when they put it in the fire, it just exploded all over the place. So he was laughing from outside of his body, watching everyone get to the firecrackers. So he could laugh at his own funeral, yeah. So finding how to have fun in life, rather than going, oh, this is difficult. How to do this. I said to my youngest son once about all this technology, and it keeps changing. Yeah, you've got to upload the latest system, and then you've got to learn it. And I was saying, oh no, there's another thing I have to learn. I said, but what about you? How do you feel about all these changes? And he said, oh, I think it's fantastic. I wake up in the morning and think, what's new? Yeah? So just different perspectives. It's about changing our perception. I think I still think, oh no, they've changed it again. Having fun and playing, how do we do that? I have noticed as adults we need to put conscious effort into that. What happens is, when the energy within the base centre stirs, when you start to convert that energy and it moves from the base centre, if you have fears about your survival, this energy will highlight that. If you are very serious in your life as it moves up to the next energy centre, this will highlight it. It will make you feel more serious until you look at it and say, I need to change this. So in yoga what we do is we try to make the changes before that happens. As this energy moves up to the next centre, it will highlight any blockages here. So the third centre behind the navel is about exerting your will in the world, but it's how we exert our will. And sometimes, instead of controlling ourselves, being self-controlling, we try to control other people through emotional blackmail, through using our words in a certain way. What does that mean? Before I went to India, I got my learner's permit, and I thought, oh, if I tell my parents I'm going to get a motorcycle, they'll want to buy me a car. Do you see what I mean? That's being manipulative. Yeah. And trying to control other people. So the process of yoga is learning to look at ourselves and see these behaviours and control ourselves. See that we are being manipulative and finding more, I'll use the word honest ways of doing this. So in other words, I would have said to my parents, I'd really like you to buy my car instead of me saving up. That would have been the honest thing to say, wouldn't it? Really. And yoga gives us the power to be honest to ourselves and to see what it is we really want. Yeah? And what it is we really need to say with clarity of mind. So when that energy is converting and it moves up to this area, if we are in the mode of controlling other people, it will exacerbate that. And this is where we need the process of meditation. Meditation starts by doing some yoga asana postures, and it's never too late to do it. My grandmother did yoga up to 102. She passed at 102. And she would sit in the chair and do joint rotations. Yeah? Shoulder rotations. And we do this with awareness. There's always some yoga you can do. A friend of mine was in a very serious car accident and she was in a coma. And everyone thought that that's it. You know. But she came out of the coma unexpectedly. And she couldn't move her body, there was brain damage. She had been a yoga teacher. She was also a very determined person. If you're into astrology, she was an Aries. Any Aries here? You know that determination I'm talking about? Uncontrollable. There you go. So she was an Aries, and she was very determined. She was very determined to get her body back. And because she had been a yoga teacher, mentally she did her yoga. The physiotherapist also came in and was working with her body. And she got her body back. It took time. She got her body back. The only thing she couldn't do was drive a car. And because of the brain damage, she couldn't hold her emotions in, so she would just express as she felt the emotion. But in every other way, she was as good as you and I. So her yoga was done mentally. And we've seen that through research with athletes. Research that was done in the US, and the athlete was hooked up to an instrument and visualised running the race. The purpose was to win. Visualised running the race, mentally felt that they were running the race, and the muscles in the legs were firing. So that says to me, yoga starts in the mind. When we say we can't do yoga, I say, have you got a mind? And you'll say, what's she talking about? Of course I've got a mind. Then you can do yoga. If you're feeling lazy and can't get out of bed in the morning, it's one of those cold mornings. You know what I mean by cold? For me, this is cold. The room is nice and warm, but out there's cold. But I mean serious cold when you pull the doona up, that sort of cold. Do your yoga in bed. See yourself doing it mentally. Eventually you'll get sick of doing it that way. You'll want to do it physically. Or you'll need to go and use the washroom. So what I talk about is snacking on yoga. You can do it in bed for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. When you get the enthusiasm, then you sit on the end of the bed and you do some stretching like this. Yeah, and you use your breath. So for example, just sit with both of your feet on the floor, fingers interlaced. Close your eyes. Feel the natural breath. So your fingers are interlaced in your lap and you're going to lift the arms up on an inhalation. Breathe in deeply, stretching the arms up and turning the palms to the ceiling. exhale with control as you release. Now count the breath mentally as you inhale. Breathing in, lift the arms up, you're counting mentally. And as you exhale, release,